What's up guys, Justin Fuller here, and I'm outside of the 2021 Honda Pilot LX Edition. So this is your base model. So if you were asking yourself, can I get into a Honda Pilot that will seat 8 and include Honda Sensing for right around that 33K mark? The answer is absolutely yes, so let's check it out. Underneath the hood of this 2021 Honda Pilot. So let's hop in and take a look. It's got a 3.5 liter V6 engine that's putting out 280 horsepower underneath the hood. So you can see right here, I've got a nice engine cover sitting on it. Over here, I've got a fuse box, of course, my windshield wiper fluids. Moving over, I've got an air box. I've got my CPU sitting right up there. And then down below here, you can see hidden away, I've got the battery to my vehicle. So everything's tucked in here pretty tight, but it's covered up with plastic to keep it nice and protected underneath the hood. While we're talking about what's underneath the hood of this vehicle, let's throw up a comparison so that you can see some of the other vehicles that would compete normally against this car. So I'm gonna throw that up on the screen right now, right above this beautiful face. All right, so when it comes to the Pilot, it's typically gonna be a people mover, so we wanna talk about safety and what this car has to offer. So as we start at the front of the car, I wanna point out a couple things. One, it does have 6 airbags in the car, so you have 2 front, 2 side, and 2 full curtain with rollover sensors, so if the car does roll, you are gonna be protected even without getting into an accident. Now up front, I wanna point out 2 things here. So the first being right here. Right behind this is where you're gonna find the radar in this car, and that's used for some of the Honda Sensing features. And then additionally, if you can see this trapezoid shape right up there, that's gonna be the camera. So these 2 are gonna be used with lane keep assist, which will keep you centered in your lane if you start to drift out. And of course, it's going to use your forward collision warning system and braking system. So to look like I'm going to rear end another car, it'll actually start to apply the brakes to help prevent an accident from you rear-ending somebody. Now, additionally, this car does have road departure mitigation, meaning if the car starts to drive off the shoulder of the road, it will give you an audible alert and shake the wheel. So you've got a lot of different features and functions that even come in the base model of this car to help you out. As we begin a walk around on this car, I want to point out a couple quick features, and that's 1, it does have black handles. So they're not going to match the body of the car. And then 2, you'll notice that it also has black mirrors. So that's going to be part of that system too on the LX model. Now these still are breakaway mirrors, so if you bump them in a parking lot, you will be safe. But I just like to point out that if you're looking for body color, you're going to want to climb up a model. Now down below here, I will point out that you have an 18-inch alloy wheel. So it's kind of a matte finish to this alloy look, but just to give you an idea for what you're working with. As we wrap around the front, I will point out that you do have LED daytime running lights, and then you do have your standard beamed headlights. So it's not going to be a full LED setup here. And then you'll notice, while it does have the cutouts for it, it does not come with the fog lights in the car. So if you wanted to add them yourself, you absolutely could, or you could move up models. Now as we move around, you've got a nice black honeycomb finish along the bottom, and then as you back out, you'll notice you have black and a silver grille combo here. So let's move around to the other side of this car and talk about it. So as we move down, this is the polished metal gray, and this one's gonna actually have a tan interior. And you'll notice in the back half of the car, it is always tinted. So they do that from the manufacturer. The front 2 windows are never tinted because that's something that's gonna differ depending on the state that you're buying the car in. So as we move around to the back here, we'll pop it open and we'll talk about some cargo space. The first thing I want to point out though is that you've got nice big tail lights, and you've got a small spoiler up top to kind of give you some emphasis on braking. And then down below, you've got the black trim along with the reflectors. Now, on the tailgate, it is not powered. So if I want to open it, I'm gonna have to pop it and pull it myself. Not a big deal, it's not super heavy, and it does come on actuators, but be aware of that if you're looking for a powered tailgate, you are gonna wanna climb models. While we're back here though, I will point out that you do have a backup camera in this car, and you can see it right there. So that's where your backup camera is sitting in case you're wondering. So let's hop back into this and talk about cargo space. All right guys, so when it comes to cargo space, Honda actually does this a little bit better than a lot of the other competition vehicles out there. So on the screen, I'm gonna throw up some of the cargo space comparisons that you can see as far as how much volume you're getting. So feel free to check that out, and we'll compare those as we go over it later. But let's hop in and kind of show you this. So as we come into the car, I wanna point out something. It's a very basic looking setup in the back where I've still got space even with this 3rd row up, but I do have hidden storage that I can use. And not only do they give me hidden storage, but I can drop this down in, right? So if I wanna give this a nice sit, now I could put bags stacked up. So this would work for like a carry-on bag. You can actually stack, I believe, 4 of them in here. Or if you had groceries you were concerned about rolling around. Now what they've done that's really cool is you can see I have the carpeted side, but they'll also allow you to flip this around and go to a plastic side, which just makes a lot of sense. It's a dual purpose setup, right? So now if I'm using a cooler or anything that's wet, I don't have to worry about it soaking the carpet. So just a really smart idea that Honda has done for you. Now I'm gonna throw this back up and make it flush just so we can show you what the full cargo space in this vehicle looks like. So if I wanna throw down these 3rd row seats, all I've gotta do is pull, and that will lay them down for me. And I'm gonna pull and lay this one down for me. And I've already folded down the second row, so you can see I have got a good amount of space to work with, and it's nice and flat, which is a really nice thing if you're loading up something large that needs that flat surface, or maybe you're camping and you wanna sleep in your car. Now, I will point out though that there is a gap between the second and third row, so be aware of that gap. Just something, you know, to notice in case, depending on what you're loading up, needs a perfectly flat surface. Now, while back here, I will point out that you do have air vents for your third row, and of course you do have cup holders, and while we're here, I'll point out that you do have tie downs too. So if you do need to tie something down in the back, you absolutely have that option available to you. And on this other side, you of course have the cup holders and the AC vents here too. So I just want to point that out as we move through the vehicle. Now, on the back of this car on the left side, I will point out that you'll notice there's a small space here that has the picture of a gas icon, and I want to talk about that. So the first thing we're going to want to do is remove our key from our fob. All right, so if you've never removed your key from your fob, this is going to play a role in what we're going to do. So on the back, there's a switch right here, and if I pull that switch, I can slide a key out. And this key is going to come into play here because I'm going to show you what we're going to do with it next. Okay, so with that key, there is a small slot right here that I can push my key into, and it'll allow me to pop this open. Now, once I pop this open, I can pull it out. So behind this, you're gonna find that there's a trigger right here. And if you pull that trigger, let's move around to the side of the car and I'll show you what that does. It's actually gonna pop your gas cap. So if you ever find yourself not being able to get your gas door open using the inside, know that you have this available to you and it's in that cargo area. Now, while we're back here, I will point out that you'll notice it is capless, so I have a valve right here to work with. But part of that is that if we move back around here, I wanna point something out. Back here, you'll notice that there is a funnel right here. And where this funnel comes into play is that if I ran out of gas and needed to fill up, chances are I'm probably not using a gas can. So I may need that funnel to hold that open so that you could then pour gas in with a water bottle or whatever it is that you found. So that's what this funnel is for, and that's how you can get into this in case the button up front doesn't work. All right, guys, so here we are in the third row of this Honda Pilot. Now, I will point out that you can see for a 6-footer, it's a little bit of a tight foot with these seats pushed all the way back. However, they are on a rail system, so you could slide them forward and move them up a little bit if that helped you. Now, if I was looking for more space in a third row, I would highly recommend that you move over to an Odyssey. But if your pride won't let you do it, or there's just another reason you can't own an Odyssey, no big deal. I 100% get it. Know that this car will fit a 6-footer, but if I needed to stack 3 back here, I would probably want that middle person, or at least a couple people back here, to be smaller individuals such as children. All right, guys, so as a second row passenger, not too bad. I've got some good space that I can work with, and I have a rail system here so I can slide it back and forth. Now, it is a cloth interior, so I'm gonna pull you into the car and kind of show you that. The one thing I don't like about the LX, it is a very plush soft, which is nice, but I feel like the typical person who owns this car is probably gonna be using, this to move children. And I feel like stains are gonna have a more likely option to stick to these seats. Now, they do sell covers, and you can, of course, go after market to get covers, but it's just something to consider if you're looking at this particular model. Now, it does offer up a nice center fold down here with drink holders, and of course, I can store drinks away in the second row additionally, so I've got storage there, and then I've got more cup holders up here. Now, in the back, you do, of course, have air vents for your second row passengers additionally, and then I have storage where this would normally be USB inputs and other things, depending on the level of the vehicle that you're in. All right, guys, so as we start to head into the front row of this vehicle, I just want to talk to you about the seating arrangement and kind of some options that you have. So as we move on in here, I will point out that it is a manual seat on both sides of this vehicle. So over here, it's a pneumatic to raise and lower. So as I want to raise it, I lift the pump, and to lower it, I'm going to press down on the pump. So you do have the ability to raise and lower. Now, this is going to adjust your backrest just back and forth, right? And then, of course, you do have the rail system underneath if you want to slide the seat forward. And then additionally over there, I can slide it forward and back, and I do have a backrest, right? So this side isn't going to adjust up and down. So just be aware of that. If you're thinking you want a powered seat, you may want to climb up a model to the EX model. So as we're sitting in the car, I want to point out some easy access buttons that are probably going to come to play at some point, and that would be to access the hood is of course right there, and to access the gas cap is going to be right here. So easy to get to, and then I will point out that you do have an emergency brake, which is actually a kick pedal. So I will kick it to lock it, and then to release it, I pop it off, right? As we come across the dash, I will just point out that you have black across the tops to prevent glare, and then of course you have gray on this specific vehicle depending on the color. Now let's start over here and go over a couple buttons that you can see here. So down here, I will point out that the car does have Honda sensing. So for a base model, it's nice that it offers that up. So you can see that I have, of course, my road departure mitigation system, which is actively running with the LED, and then my collision mitigation braking system, which is actively running too. Next to that is vehicle stability assist. This works with my traction control. So in the event that I go into a skid, it'll transfer power to whichever wheel is getting better traction. Now above that, you're gonna have the controls to your mirrors. So I've got a left and a right control here that I can use that's gonna work for you, right? And then next to that, I have my econ button. So if I engage this button, you are gonna see a green leaf come on up here, which I will show you. So you can see that green leaf pop on right up there, and that's just letting you know that now you will improve your gas mileage using that, but be aware that it's a give and take system. So improved gas mileage means I'm giving up some acceleration off the pedal, and additionally I'm giving up some of the power in the AC unit. So be aware that you can absolutely take advantages. If you're a conservative driver, I'd say keep it on all the time. You'll never know the difference and you'll get better gas mileage. All right, so as we look at the steering wheel, on my left side, I pretty much have my audio controls and Bluetooth controls. And then on my right side, I'm gonna have a couple Honda sensing features that we'll go over. So let's start on the left side over here. I've got volume controls right here. And then switching between sources, I would have these two buttons right here. And then switching between tracks, I've got here. And then my enter button. Now, if I wanna jump into the menu screen, I've got this home button right here. And when I press that, it's gonna pull up a menu that you'll see up here. And I can then toggle between it. So let's take a look at that menu. All right, so on this menu, you can do quite a bit of things. So if you wanna hide or show specific apps, you can absolutely do that. So that's the first thing you'll see here. The next down is your tripometer. So if I wanna access, my current and previous trips and what kind of mileage I'm getting, I can absolutely do that. Underneath that, you're gonna get your maintenance. So you get your tire pressure, and I really like that they give you the tire pressure per tire. So you don't have to go hunting around your car to try to figure this out. And then if I jump back out of that, we'll go back to it, and you also get your oil life. So when you get down to 15%, it'll give you a code. It'll throw A1, A2, or B1 or B2. So that way, when you go into the dealership, you can look that up ahead of time and already know what they're gonna recommend to you. Or if you plan to do this elsewhere, you kind of know what the recommended service for you will be. Now, as we continue to move down here, I've got some settings here that I can hop through. So I want to arrange the apps or turn the tachometer on and off, as you see I'm doing right there. And then vehicle customization. So this is where I can play with some of the driver assist setups, the meter setup, keyless access, my lighting setup. So if you want to play with some of those options, know that you absolutely can. So just be aware that that's what this is. So I'm gonna back out of that for a second and just scroll down here. You got miles per hour or kilometers, and then I have a blank screen if I just wanna run something very basic in this vehicle, and then hop back to the top. Now this vehicle does come with paddle shifters, as you'll see here. I've got a minus and a positive, giving me the ability to downshift the car or upshift the car. So it's just giving you a little bit more control over that 9-speed transmission. And then back here I do have auto on-off headlights that I can use. And then on the other side I have my windshield wiper controls, not only for the front if I pull down, but the rear windshield wiper controls off the tip of the stalk. So when it comes to your audio display, this is where things get a little bit tricky for me. This is a 5-inch audio display screen, so not a touchscreen at all, and it's connected to a 215-watt 7-speaker system that includes a sub. Now for me personally, I would want the touchscreen here that you could get by climbing up a model, or you could always go aftermarket and add that in if you wanted. Now, for the sake of this and talking about the screen, because this is a big negative for me, what I'm gonna do right now is throw up, if I went up to the EX, how much extra money would it cost me? And additionally, what are the additional extra features that I gain? So this way you can understand, moving from the LX, if I wanna jump away from this to something with a little bit more tech, how much am I gonna pay and what all extra am I gonna get on top of that touchscreen? So take a look at this list right now, and that'll give you an indication. If you wanna look more into the EX, that way you have an idea for what you're gaining out of it. Now, with all that said, I just want to show you that this is a very basic functioning vehicle. No big deal. Some people are looking for point A to point B and just some basic functionality. So you're still going to get a backup camera here with 3 views, which I'll show you right now. So if I pop that on, right, it's gonna give me that view, and as I wanna toggle through screens, I can absolutely do it. So I've got one aimed straight down, and you can see where my hatch will open up to, and that back line is for if I'm parallel parking, and I've got wide angle and a normal view, so 3 different views on the backup camera. So I'm still working good there, just on a smaller display, and I do have Bluetooth controls, so I can connect up my phone. It's easy to do, just hit yes once you turn your Bluetooth on, and then search for your phone, and you're good to go, right? So I'm gonna jump back out of that. And then of course, media-wise, I do have the radio, I have FM, I have AM, and then media-wise, I can jump over to USB, which I do have a USB that is located right there for me. And then additionally, I can go Bluetooth if I wanna listen wirelessly, to my phone or whatever the device may be. So it still has some basic functionality up here, but for me personally, I would like to see a little bit more, but I do understand that there has to be a base model and it does have to start somewhere, and some people just prefer basic functionality, right? So that is what you're seeing right here. Now down below that, I do have an AC unit, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and turn that on for us. And it is a tri-zone AC, just meaning that I can control the left, the right, and the back all separate of each other. So right now I have them synced, so they all change off of this, right? So you can see that they're all synced. If I unsync, I can change this one and leave that one different, or I can jump over into the rear settings and affect their temperature separately too, right? Now I'm gonna sync them back here and jump back out of that and change it back, right? So easy to understand as far as your AC controls. Of course, I do have a front and rear defrost here, and I'll point those out. And then I have some additional storage right here. And then as you saw, I have a power outlet right here. And then I have a USB right here. And then I have a nice rubber matte finish right here that I can use to hold my phone, which you can barely see there. And then of course my shifter, which always brings up a little bit of a point of contention for a lot of people because they're just not used to seeing a shifter like this. Now the cool thing about this is it opens up this space, right? So I don't have that shifter in the way where I can bump it or hit it with my knee, or if I'm moving stuff around, it just makes the cabin feel more open. And to throw it in reverse, it always lights up and lets you know where you're at, right? So it's easy to understand as far as what's going on here. Now while we're talking about this, you do have an idle stop start, which is this button right here, and it's always going to be on. So the default is for that to be on. If you want to turn that off, you would press it when you get in the car, and then it'll show you the alert that it's disabled, right? And you'll see up here that it's disabled. So just be aware of that. What that feature is that it means when I come to a complete stop, if I'm seeing like a stoplight, it can turn off the engine but continue to keep the electronics and the AC unit on just to help save for gas mileage. While we're talking about gas mileage, this car gets 19 in the city and 28 on the highway, so just something to be aware of. So as we're talking about the gas mileage in the shifter, I will say that I will throw up on the screen the comparisons of other vehicles and what their gas mileage are too, so that you can kind of compare, hey, if I'm looking at apples to apples across the line, which would typically probably be the Toyota Highlander, and I'll see what else I can throw up here just to kind of make it interesting. We'll get 3. So take a look at the gas mileage and just understand what you are getting out of this vehicle, whether it be an LX or any of the other trim levels. Now you've got a nice big storage and it is covered, which I do like, and I kind of like the finish to this. It's a nice kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but it's got some ridges to it. Now when I slide it open, I will point out a couple things here as we come in. And I'll just point out that you do have another USB additionally right here and another power outlet here if you can see them. I know they're in a dark hole. So I've got USB, and then power outlet and additional power outlet down in there. So just something to be aware of. As we move up on the car, it's got a classic mirror, so no auto dimming, no home link, no compass or anything like that. I've got sunglasses holder, and then no moonroof. You would have to climb up a model, right? So just so you can get a feel for that. Now looking out the back, I always like to point out what you're working with as far as you do have that porthole window, but you can see that I do have a headrest there. So if I'm looking into my blind spot, that's what I need to be aware of. And then looking back, I've got quite a good view out the back of this. So as far as visibility goes, not too bad in this car. And what I would remind you is that if you're not using the back seats, you can do what I've done there and actually flip down those headrests to give you more visibility, or just fold that entire row down. So just a nice function that you can always take advantage of. All right, guys, so that's the quick rundown of the 2021 Honda Pilot LX. Hopefully that helped you get a good understanding of what the vehicle offers and kind of some of the comparisons to the Kia Telluride and the Toyota Highlander. Now, as we move forward, know that I've got plenty of other videos if you're looking for Pilot videos or even a Kia Telluride video. So feel free to hop into my channel and check out some of those videos. Other than that, do a couple favors for me. 1, hit the like button for me. 2, subscribe for me. Other than that, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. If I missed something, if there's something you wish I'd go over, or if there's something specific you need help with, I'm here to help you out. Other than that, I want to say thank you, and we'll talk to you later, guys.